Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sheryl McCumsey, founder of Pesticide Free Alberta. She now lives on the Sunshine Coast in British Columbia. Welcome back to the show, Sheryl.
Hello, Jim.
Sheryl, a question that I received from a listener was, would consuming pesticide-riddled food make you more susceptible to viruses?
Probably. I mean, anything that has a stress on your immune system is probably going to have an impact on how well you're going to handle being infected with any disease.
Do some of these, I was going to ask too, do some of these pesticides mimic things like penicillin and the way it acts by weakening bacterium's wall and letting it explode from the moisture from the inside out? But of course, the bacteria evolved to the point where they have thicker skins, so to speak, and they don't blow up anymore, so the antibacterials don't work. Is that one of the problems when you start involving some of these pesticides that mimic human hormones or antibiotics?
Well, glyphosate is patented as an antimicrobial and lists both gut flora and soil microbes it kills. And then there's studies on how pathogenic bacteria are more resistant to it in studies. So, and then there are other studies showing, actually that one of the more recent studies show that this impacts the gut flora of bees. It certainly impacts gut flora in other studies that we see of other animals. And boy, we sure have a lot of gut diseases in Canada. And so, and there's indications that it's going to affect the immune system of plants too. So, because all of these things are really rather interesting around microbes for sure. How they affect every organ of the body, how they affect the brain, and how they affect your immune system. It's becoming more and more obvious that this is an issue, and the fact that antibiotics are can have a really negative impact on our health. Well, of course, if glyphosate is registered as an antimicrobial, well, if it's in your food system, if it's in your environment, what do we think it does? And there's evidence of what it does.
Is it in common products that might be used around your home or garden?
Well, I mean, glyphosate is in Roundup, right, which people can buy to use on their property. It's used in forestry in the form of Vision Max, and there's a lot of people opposed to that. And spraying in general in forestry. There's now 115,000 signatures in a petition around that issue alone. It's going to be in a lot of your foods. In certain foods, they'll be in higher concentrations. I know that when testing was done, we found it to be in higher concentrations in legumes, for example. Some above acceptable limits, probably because of the plant's proximity to the ground, perhaps, that it's going to be absorbing more of this pesticide. And so anything that has those additives in products, for example, that would be sprayed with this pesticide would have those residues there, if possibly anyways, not necessarily for sure. And because we're seeing a lot of things in the water and rain, it can be contaminated in other things. unless you test something, you don't know for sure, but, and we do know that it's certainly in our food system and in higher levels than we thought, so there's that.
You said high in legumes. Aren't they the basis for these meat substitute products now that you can get instead of a beef burger?
Yeah, that's why I sort of am opposed to them. Yeah, for sure. Processed food in general has got a lot of things around it that it's concerning, but if the product's not organic, the chances are the residues are going to be higher in those products. And, the testing that was done, they found that legumes were particularly high. Well, peas are a legume, and a lot of the other additives also get sprayed. So, like canola, for example. So yeah, I wouldn't want to consume any of that. And I do eat a lot of vegetarian dishes, but I wouldn't want to eat that. No, thanks.
Well, I was taking a look at the ingredients and the calories, and I went, there's a lot of fat in calories. The so-called veggie burger, of course, they're not called that now. It's a Beyond Meat or whatever burger. They just say made from vegetables. But it had more calories than the beef burger.
Yeah,
and I thought, how's the deal? How does that happen?
Well, calories are not just, they're in different, with sugar and fat together, right? There's going to be
and also a load of salt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember reading that there was a higher level of salt, for sure. The CEO of, I think it was Impossible Foods, if I remember right, the CEO of Impossible Foods, one of those two burgers that's on the market, it could be the Beyond Beef burger, but I'm not sure. But anyways, said that they're not marketing these burgers to impact climate change. They're marketing them basically to vegans and vegetarians, because those people, that's what they're wanting, right? So it's the same companies that have pretty horrific animal treatment practices, I guess you could say. It's the same company. It's just they're producing a plant-based burger. I don't think that's better. I don't think I would want to eat anything in a fast food restaurant. I want to eat healthier, period. And so regardless of whether it's vegan or not, it's, I understand and think it's a great idea to reduce our meat, but eating processed food like that, I don't think that's better. I don't think it's a good thing. Mm-hmm. We're not really looking necessarily either at all of the processes here of production. So you have the processing of the pesticide that has to happen, and there's multiple parts in a pesticide, not just the active ingredient. And then you have the transportation of that and the packaging of that product. And then you have all the separate parts of the processing of the different parts of the burger as well. All of these things have a carbon footprint. I don't think everybody's taking all those parts in the thought process of what's better. Certainly there's processing and the feeding of cattle and all of that, but are we taking in all of the parts of all of this? I don't think so. Pesticides have a carbon footprint before they even get out of the container. So it's quite incredible that we're not looking at the bigger picture of things.
We'll have more with Sheryl McCumsey right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines. Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sheryl McCumsey. Sheryl, beautiful British Columbia is basically mountains, forests, lakes, rivers, and the ocean, all very pretty things. We'd like to keep our forests healthy, but is spraying them with pesticides doing that?
No. This is a huge concern. There's all kind of reporting around how forest fires are now emitting more carbon than all the cars on the road, that forest fires are doubling every 9 years. I mean, nobody likes lots of smoke in their area. It affects all kinds of health conditions. It threatens your home. And I know that the Ministry of Forestry is asking the public to be mindful, careful, etc. I don't understand then how in these fire smart videos they recommend growing deciduous trees on your property. Because it's well known that those trees are going to stop or prevent the spread of a forest fire. I mean, there's science on it. It's over 800% more fire resistant these trees are than conifer trees. And what we're doing is we're just growing one kind of tree plantation, which is, I mean, if you look at history going back hundreds of years, growing one kind of anything massively is asking for big trouble. So, we got pine beetle. All of these things have sort of evolved over a number of years. But the fact is, here in Powell River, we're opposed to the forest companies spraying because of, in their plan, they plan to spray deciduous trees, maple trees, which are our iconic tree of Canada. Spraying maple. Maple is a very valuable wood. I have several pieces of maple furniture in my home. So we're spraying these trees because we see them interfering with the growth of the trees that are desired for harvesting. So what we're doing is we're presenting a fire risk because these pesticides that we're spraying are literally used in agriculture to dry down crops. And anybody that's seen an area that's been sprayed with glyphosate, it's all brown, it's all dead, and it stays like that for quite some time. You're literally creating a fire tinderbox. It makes no sense. These other trees are more flammable. So you've created conditions where insects are going to be more of a problem because you have no break in those trees of any other kind of tree growing so that the insect doesn't spread. You have no fire resistance or a way to stop that fire. But forest firefighters know that if they get into a fire situation where they have to escape, that's where they go. So how come the Ministry of Environment and Forestry doesn't seem to want to address that? And, what do the workers think? Do the workers like the fact that they are being at risk for cancer? I mean, there's all kinds of lawsuits going on. Well over 100,000 plaintiffs in the U.S. have pretty much won their case because it's clear that Monsanto, who is the original registrant of this pesticide, hid evidence of cancer. It's in documentation in these lawsuits. That's why they're winning. And that's why there's now 4 class action suits in Canada. So we've got the forest fire, the applicators who get what? They get, they study for 8 hours to write an exam, for what they call integrated pest management and the handling of pesticides in forestry. They only need one licensed applicator in a crew, and this person has very little knowledge really of pesticides. They learn how to mix them, they learn how to spray them, they learn how to protect themselves, but do they really have a background of knowing about whether they should spray or not? Well, there's no oversight of these people going in the backcountry and spraying. And I'm trying to access reports of this company, their spray sheets, which they're required, these companies or these people that are spraying are required to document this. And I have not been able to access those reports. I haven't been able to see them. So if they say they're not spraying very much, well, that's great. They can say that, but where's the proof that they're not spraying very much? I haven't seen anything yet. And I'm kind of getting the runaround from government. They're kind of telling me that they don't require those reports. So where's the regulatory body here? There's nobody seeing anybody doing anything. There's nobody submitting reports to government. There's just summaries, but I haven't even seen that yet. There's these little vague maps that have little areas showing where they're spraying, but we don't know what they're spraying, how much they're spraying, or even why they're spraying. It feels insane to me. And when you talk to people, they think the same, and even foresters don't agree with it necessarily. Even people in government will say they agree with you that this doesn't make sense, and yet nobody's doing anything about it. I just don't get that at all.
We'll have more with Sheryl McCumsey right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sheryl McCumsey. Sheryl, with so many people stuck at home because of the virus crisis, was there a huge interest in people growing their own organic food, and have they been successful in finding the supplies to do that?
Well, there's been quite a few reports about people definitely getting interested in growing their own food. I mean, and I'm seeing it and hearing it in multiple ways. I think it has been difficult for some people to access some of the seeds and things in a timely manner, and a lot of the seed events that happen in the spring in different locations had to been canceled. So I think that's put a damper on things, but people are finding a way around it. And there's definitely, community gardens or something they're still allowed. And what's also interesting is that there's an increase in demand of organic food as well. So I think people are thinking about it a lot more. And I think people are talking about it a lot more. There's certainly an interest in it. I see people saying they are growing things for the very first time. So that's pretty cool. And it's going to have hopefully a lasting effect when, as things start opening up again. I hope this is something we continue to focus on because, we could have a second wave of this virus too. And we got to be ready, This could happen again.
There's nothing like having a real good freezer to keep that food in too as well, right?
Oh yeah, I think it's pretty hard. Even if you're in an apartment, a little freezer in your fridge just doesn't cut it. And probably buying a little freezer for your apartment is worthwhile. It'll save you money if you're buying things in season, like strawberries, for example. And you can, freeze them on a cookie sheet and then put them in a bag, and those strawberries are going to taste a whole lot better than strawberries out of season, even when they're frozen. So, yeah, a little freezer, you can get quite a range of freezers for your apartment. I would say, even if you're in a home, we're looking at we have a freezer, but we're probably going to buy a second fridge because we've got a lot growing in our garden. I tried growing potatoes also in the little they're sort of like a big sack, and I could see they're doing just as well as the one in the ground. So obviously, if you're getting enough sunshine, you can grow potatoes in a sack with some soil. I'm going to have quite a lot of potatoes.
Yeah, and up in Peace River, we had a problem growing potatoes. My mom bet my dad that he couldn't grow potatoes, and he put them on the south side of a white granary. So they got enough sunlight and they grew, and she said that wasn't fair. But obviously, if you use strategies like that, you can perhaps grow vegetables you didn't think you could.
Oh, yeah, there's some interesting things about, well, yeah, having a white wall is brilliant, like brilliant in more ways than one, almost like a joke there. But, you know, having good mulch, you know, like Lee Valley does delivery now, I see, and they have mulch for tomatoes, you know, like colored things fabrics and things you can put underneath your plants to, you know, increase your yield. Well, yeah, for sure. If you're thinking that you can't do something, well, sometimes there's a way around that, you know, like people are doing some really remarkable things when it comes to, even greenhouses and trying to find ways to have energy for those greenhouses without putting out, you know, a lot of electrical, costs there, right? So, it's all about what you're willing to spend some time researching. There's amazing things out there.
Well, compost itself generates heat. You got to be careful it doesn't catch fire in some cases. So, so maybe people should be looking at maybe compost bins in their greenhouse just to keep it warm at night.
Oh yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Yeah, for sure. There's energy that comes from microbial activity when you're breaking down. I mean, some people are using that as another form of producing energy, even, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of things that can be done that we are just starting to skim the surface of, and it's remarkable. Agroecology and agroforestry and all of these things, other countries have been doing them out of necessity for a while now, and we've got some catching up to do, but there's so many things we could be doing to produce food locally. It's just remarkable. And we also have to take care of our forests. I mean, forestry is a huge, huge industry in BC. We've been losing jobs in that sector. If we're concerned about jobs, we should be looking at doing things manually rather than using pesticides, which puts the worker at risk. So all of these things we should be doing.
And if you want to get rid of the underbrush, there's nothing like a herd of sheep to do that for you.
Oh yeah, some people have been doing that too, you know. Some people even have been what do you call it, like renting their goats out to clean up areas and stuff. So there's all kinds of, depending on where you are too, like, you know, some places there's more access to these things, but that's why mixed farm has got its advantages, because, you know, you can have geese and ducks taking care of things for you when it comes to insects and so on. I was reading something about slugs and whatnot, and, you know, you can use birds to take care of that for you. So you don't want to, it's just a matter of looking at some of the old ways of doing things and using what we know today and integrating those things together. It's amazing what we could be doing.
And if you're looking at a non-invasive weed killer, how about just taking a tea kettle out with hot water, boiling hot water, and going after the noxious weeds that way?
Oh yeah, there's, you know, it depends on the weed, of course, but, yeah, boiling water works really well, for a lot of things. There is a guy in Alberta that sells, steam units, or he's been selling them to municipalities and to some farmers, like these units for steam. And so this isn't actually all that new either. It was around before, but it's sort of, I think there were people who didn't want to see this go forward kind of thing, but, using steam works really well. It actually probably works better than herbicides because of how it will, affect the seeds from a weed, for example. And then another thing that people do on their driveways, Lee Valley's been selling these for a while. I haven't looked recently to see how easy they are. You have to be careful, I guess, on the weather conditions and where your driveway is. But if you have a long driveway, a weed torch works really well. I mean, it's like, these things are like, have an instant impact, both a fire and steam, and don't leave any residue that you have to worry about. There's not going to be anything left behind to be worried about when it comes to your kids and your dogs and things. So nothing is going to go into the water.
Sheryl, how can we get our politicians to pay more attention to these issues?
Well, I mean, I see that people have decided to hire lawyers to take action because in some cases, this is like everybody refers back to Health Canada as registering these pesticides, like that's the end of the discussion. And obviously a lot of people are taking legal action around that because we have a very seriously flawed system when it comes to assessment to start with. And I think people are starting to realize that. So, we need to make them accountable. I mean, I'm telling my politician, whichever one it might be, that I don't consent to this. I do not consent to forestry spraying on public lands around where I live. I don't consent. I think everybody should be saying, I do not consent. Because is it assumed that we've consented to this? Because really this report for our area, for example, was put in the newspaper for the public to see. So if it's out there for the public to see, that means they're assuming we've consented to this because we've seen it. 1 month before it's going to be sent to the Minister of Environment. It gives us hardly any time. So after we saw this, we sent letters and we haven't heard anything back. Well, that's not democracy. That's not democracy at all. So I think we have to start holding politicians personally accountable if they're not going to respond to us. Personally responsible. We're paying for their job. They would not have a job if taxpayers weren't paying. And things are getting really tight these days, with all these people that have been out of work who are, needing to, we're going to have to find a way to make up for that. We can't be paying a whole pile of money to industry when people are just barely making ends meet and then turn around and do all these really ridiculous things that make no sense. We can't do them anymore. We have to change. So our politicians need to start thinking about accountability. So if I say I do not consent to this spraying and my house burns down because you allowed this to happen, well, what could happen there? Like maybe the insurance companies want to start suing politicians. I don't know, because how are even the insurance companies going to be able to pay out when people's houses burn down when nobody can afford to pay for their insurance policies anymore? I mean, there's going to be an end somewhere because this can't continue. We're going to have an end somewhere to all of this. It's not going well. It's got to stop. So I think the more people that are aware of these things and the more of them that they say they're not accepting this, the more likely we're going to start to get heard because times are changing. They're definitely changing.
Sheryl, where can people get more information about some of the things we've talked about?
Well, in BC, I would say an excellent website is Stop the Spray BC. The guy that has been running that website has really good information there on forestry. And when it comes to agriculture, there are so many sites to look at. Anything on organic agroecology, permaculture, all of those things are better systems for agriculture. Just, we have a group here in Powell River that we've started, and I'm not actually leading it, but I'm certainly supporting the group in every way I can. And I think that people can start creating their own group if they need to get together with others who are concerned about this. Where you can have Zoom meetings, you can, meet in someone's backyard and sit, 6 feet apart from each other and discuss what you're going to do. But we have to change this. It's having an impact on our health and on our environment and our economy. I mean, we cannot continue to allow these things to carry on the way they are. They're having a cost in every kind of way.
Sheryl, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you, Jim.
My guest has been Sheryl McCumsey, founder of Pesticide Free Alberta. She was speaking to us from Powell River, British Columbia. If you have any questions for Sheryl or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @TalkDigitalNet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.